Hi everyone, and thanks for coming. I'm Daphne, I work for FilmLight, and I'm very glad to be moderating this conversation on the art of cinematography and color. It's always quite exciting to see how these two elements come together to shape the visual identity of a film. So today I have the pleasure of speaking with cinematographer Mikhail Krichman and colorist Veronica Tiron about your creative collaboration. So together they shaped the stunning visuals of Vermiglio. The film won the Grand Jury Prize at Venice. Congratulations. And it has been nominated for the Golden Globe and for the Oscar. So we will be discussing the process of look development from pre-production to post-production. But we'll also, hopefully we will have enough time, we'll also touch on your latest project, The End. It's annoying because on your latest project, The End, and also how your partnership has evolved over time. So welcome you both. Could you briefly introduce yourself, please?
Hello everyone, I'm Veronica, I'm a colorist, and it's a pleasure being here today. Thank you, Daphne. And yeah, I work as a DIT on set with Mikhail often, because actually that's Mikhail who brought me to this job, being a DIT, because before that I was just a colorist in the lab, and we met on the set of Leviathan in 2012, 13, and I got there in the north. If you've seen the movie, it's a beautiful place, because I was invited by director Andrei Zvegintsev to follow the production of the movie. I was a student in a film school. As any student, I was curious how it's made, and this is how I got this opportunity to just see how those images are created. And after like 7 or 8 years in a post-production, where I got as a trainee as well in the same time, I got to color grading and following this process from technical side.
Nice.
Just to note that Veronica is originally a cinematographer, so you finished the film school as a cinematographer, which is important, to me at least. I'm Mikhail Krichman, I'm a cinematographer. I'm mostly known as a cameraman for Andrei Zvegintsev's films. Yeah, so...
Well, you're not selling yourself, you've done lots of film, Michael. And you worked a lot also with director Andrei, it's difficult, the name, Zvegintsev?
Zvegintsev.
Yes.
Yes.
Who did Leviathan, Loveless, I mean, great director. Yeah, you did lots of feature, Michael.
And The Return as well.
Yeah, that was the first one, yeah.
Okay, well, let's start with the project Vermiglio, just briefly, so we all know what we're talking about. The movie, it is set in a remote mountain in Italy in 1944, and it tells the story of a deserter whose arrival disrupts a local family, leading to some changes in their life, basically. But let's watch the trailer, it's easier.
Signore Gesù, nutri la nostra famiglia, i fratelli in guerra.
Non si sa mai che venga ai tedeschi.
I tedeschi dai più.
La disegna ancora. La disegna perché è l'analfabeto e va a imparare al papà.
Mi non mi piace nascondere, do disertuare.
Qui non può fare gol, non è mica andare in guerra perché che piacevano.
La Lucia si sposa.
È contenta?
Non so.
Nome Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti.
Amen.
Ringraziamo la Madonna delle Nevi, a lei cantiamo la gioia della liberazione da questa guerra dolorosa.
Papà ha detto che deve pure a trovare la sua mamma, che non la pensa che sia morta.
Non essere triste che fa gli occhi brutti.
Tutto in viaggio. Adesso pochi ha chiamato il susto papà.
Qui che tornerà la guerra. Mica i segreti.
Okay, so Veronica, earlier you were saying that you've worked on 3 features together and some short film also, I think. We're starting with Vermiglio, that was your 3rd collaboration together, and actually the end, which we will hopefully talk later, it was your 2nd collaboration. But I have a question for you, Mikhail. I feel like you really approach the image like a painter, and I know that look development is a important step for both of you, actually, when working the image. Can you tell us more about the reference used in pre-production for this project, and how did you translate them in your image?
Right. I received a proposal from Mauro Del Pera, the director, on quite a late stage, just several months before the shoot, the principal shooting. And I was really impressed with the script and agreed on that just on the day, and immediately received these beautiful references by Segantini, Courbet, Millet, all known authors. You all them know, and then when we met and spoke more about the image, and I realized that Mauro wanted to do this film, always dreamed to make it on 16mm. And in the end of the day, we realized that we can't make it on 16mm for I think it was logistic problems. So we ended up with a digital sensor. It was Sony Venice 2. Yeah, and look development. Then we spoke more about the photography, and it was a lot more references from Albert Kahn's book of, I think it's The Dawn of Color Photography with autochromes. So we thought that would be a great approach. And then we reached our colorist, Veronica, and asked how can we make it from Sony Venice to the autochrome.
You even went to the museum, no, of Albert Kahn?
Yes, it's true. So now I think it's, yeah.
So, Veronica, because we're talking about the 16mm look and the autochrome aesthetic, the film takes place in the 40s, and I'm wondering, how did you achieve those looks?
Well, on this movie, we were very lucky that creative crew and Mikhail took it seriously, and they made actual tests between digital and film, and I got to pre-grade these beautiful camera tests. I think so. These camera tests were shot with Sony Venice 2, and sometimes at different lenses that were used because it's camera tests. So there were still different choices to make. And I got to pre-grade those just first to match between two different mediums, like 16mm as a film stock and Sony Venice, which is completely different sensors. And we collaborated with the color scientist Florine Bell, who works at MPC in Paris. And she crafted a lot for us, combining also references from Mauro and Mikhail, and also giving us flexibility of this digital sensor that we could try to match and use images that would look similar, I hope. And also we matched it with textures and some grain that we could shuffle between different frequencies in Baselight. And in the end, I think we convinced Maura to go with digital also, because that was part of aesthetics and her vision as a director. So we wanted to match that for artistic reasons, firstly. And by just matching a film look, at some point we started to realize that probably it's not just a technical question of whether we want just to match a film stock, because we've seen it many times in movies, film emulation and different types of film look. But at some point, I remember when we were screening this shot particularly, that we noticed that maybe there is some kind of character in this different aesthetic or maybe direction of grade that we might use later to develop it maybe closer to autochrome, because to me it sounded ambitious to get to real autochrome, because it's very different, I mean, technically to digital sensor, but just it gave some inspiration to me, at least, and I hope also for creative crew, because we created camera LUT out of these tests that we pre-graded, and I followed on set the production of the movie, and since the movie is a kind of historical movie, so we used this look throughout the whole production, and editing was done also with it. Also the dailies were graded with grain applied. So this idea of aesthetic was kind of following all the process. I mean, idea of matching director's vision and cinematographer's vision were following technically, because I was always inspired by this possibility of following it in color managed workflow, so the look would stay the same or very truthful to the idea that cinematographer has in mind and director, so it's kind of supervised, so it gives you inspiration, but not some different variations that you never seen before or after, because sometimes there could be mistakes. So there was a pause in production of the movie between seasons, and I got lucky that I got beta testing of Baselight V6 with Chromagen. So I tried to play with this new look development tool, and I tried finally to match autochromes, because it's quite distinctive color palette as we know it from references, and I was still very inspired by both like artistic directions from Maura, because she was keep telling me on set while looking at dailies and stills that I usually share after shooting day, that it should be desaturated, but in the end I noticed that maybe this desaturation is not really applied as a bleach bypass or some film look technique that we know from the past, but it could be really closer to autochrome, and by just selecting more primary colors that would just stand out from the costumes and beautiful landscapes, that would give us some different aesthetics that maybe would match this film better. So this is how we got into some kind of development of that look during production stage, together with Florine and the lab, and yeah, we were basically preparing for final grading like this.
Great, and actually, Mikhail, it's a luxury because Veronica, so she's a colorist, but also ADIT, so she was on set with you every day. Did you feel like it helped you to shape your image? Would you say it influenced the way you lighted your scene? Yeah.
So, yeah, at some point when I think we've been grading some documentary together, and I realized that what if one person would be from the very beginning working and developing, thinking with me in parallel about the look. So that's how we came with this idea to start with the test, from the script to the test, then to the shooting set. still developing, looking at the image, and do the final grade with the same person. I think it makes sense. So, yeah.
Yeah, not everyone does this, but definitely it makes sense.
That's simple, you know.
And actually, how long did you spend on the grade?
This film, I think 10 days.
Okay. And again, for you, Mikhail, I noticed there is lots of outside scenes, but also one of the predominant color in this film is blue. Can you tell us more about it? It's still
blue, yeah, I can talk a lot about blue. Well, when you are in mountains, making a picture, half of your image is blue, if you're lucky with weather. So you have, with blues, you can talk about a lot of things with neutral blue or strong blue, because the sky is reflected in texture in mountains and clouds and skin tones and faces and everything. So I just like to play with these reflections and blue, cool tones everywhere. And to me it's important to create the balance and actually the contrast, and which blue just helps me with. Yeah, it's always I mean, yeah, Veronica can confirm that it's always like, yeah, cool shadows or cooling highlights or something should be with blue color.
And so you were mentioning earlier that Maura wanted 4 different seasons in this film. I guess that was quite challenging.
Well, yes, but we could shoot only in September and November, so we just were lucky with differences, and of course grading helped to bring to make it spring, because it actually wasn't spring. But we were lucky with snow, at least, in the end. Yeah, there is a story, but I don't think we have time.
I think we have time.
Well, yeah, maybe later, yeah. There are beekeepers actually helped us to make sure that there will be snow in 2 weeks, because no one could tell us. So we didn't know when to start the second part of the shooting period. So bee people told us, okay, bees are saying there will be snow. So we just went, and there was a snow. Next day, yeah.
So you relied on the beekeeper.
Right, now, yes.
Okay, great. So we're gonna pass now on, we're gonna talk about the end. We don't have the trailer, so I'm just gonna say you briefly. I think it's been released already in December in US, but not yet in Europe and in the UK.
Spring,
okay. So it's a movie starring Tilda Swinton, and basically it's a post-apocalyptic musical about the last human family on Earth. Actually, that's your second film together. Same thing, you've been collaborating the same way. You were on set from also, you were there from pre-production. Veronica?
Yes, I was following the production of the movie from prep, but on this particular movie we didn't have much time for this kind of camera tests, but there's still, as Mikhail always does, as I noticed that before each feature film that he does, he would try to make either some costume tests or pre-light, or in this case there were beautiful pictures also from location scout.
Yeah. And for you, Mikhail, I'm very curious to know how did you blend the colorful aesthetic of a musical with the stark atmosphere of a post-apocalyptic setting?
It's quite a long story, because I think I received the script in spring 2018, and then we paused for pandemics and then started again in 2020. And the film was developed for about 3 years, not on everyday basis, but like we met with Joshua quite often and working on the storyboards. He is a very, very precise person with very particular vision of the film. And actually, the salt mines that you see, you're looking now at, they were not in the script. We just realized that we would love to see these mines, and we just went. I think we visited about 10 of them in all Europe. And Josh visited a lot of rail bunkers in the States, and they all look ugly because, I don't know, it's just the aesthetics that we didn't want to show in our film. So that was quite challenging in terms of, because the space basically doesn't have any windows. So we ended up with lighting just to created some, I don't know how you call it, it's just the light wells, like soft top lighting. There was, I think it's a simple idea, but I think it took us about a year just to think, because originally there were windows, there were doors and windows, but it's weird having windows looking into the salt mine. I mean, at least Josh didn't want it. And yeah, it's a lot of music, a lot of color, a lot of everything, apart from, it's very different from Vermiglio, obviously. Yeah.
And so you're saying that you had to change the lighting, even though they were not like windows, but then I can see that there's lots of painting in...
Yeah, this rich family lives in a bunker, so they took a lot of stuff with them, paintings as well.
Was it more challenging for you to have... yes, I remember you mentioned something about the change of lighting with the painting, but trying to keep it realistic.
That's, yeah, Veronica could say something about it. These are references from Josh, from different musicals, Oklahoma and other films.
The Umbrella of Cherbourg.
Yeah, Umbrella of Cherbourg, of course.
And for you, Veronica, I mean, you mentioned earlier V6, but I know that you used for the first time V6 on this project.
Actually, yes, I used the V6 since that beta testing that I started during Vermiglio, and the grading of both projects were in a similar time, but on Vermiglio I got to experiment with V6 just a little bit. So I was working around existing LUT that was created. So it's also one of the techniques how we can, I guess, use these powerful new tools like Chromogen, and this could be a way to start exploring.
You on Chromogen extensively on that one.
But yes, for this movie, I tried to just go for it, because I thought that for this movie that is shot between the studio and the mine, and how picturesque and beautiful it is, and stylized by production design, cinematography, and all those beautiful references. I mean, in many ways, this is a very unique project, and I want to. I mean, I'm really grateful for the trust I was given by Mikhail, and because when you develop such a palette with such different inputs, like mine, which is exterior but it's interior, and I guess having such deep tools as a Chromogen in V6, where we could use a very wide palette, also rearranging some color separation is just outstanding, I find, and I think it's for me it was a revolution in the way how you can approach it. So you can really feel that you're just developing something from giving samples from all the, because after the shot, after the initial photography of the movie, I had a lot of samples, like 100 different shots, like just one frame by frame that I could experiment with and start approaching, because as we see between studios and between the mine, and having this idea from Joshua Oppenheimer that it should be a very colorful feast in a way, like the last one on Earth, that also is inspiring, and it is pushing you forward as a colorist to explore the limits and to get to them, and also those paintings, of course. Of course, and those paintings also I was thinking like how could I approach it when I tried just during the look development stage, when I just experimented with those frames. I was trying to make sure that I'm faithful to beautiful paintings that we all know, to originals. So I was watching them in some good digital reproductions in web that I could find, and yeah, so that's basically the idea of color separation that was coming from old musicals that Joshua had. I believe some of them, of those beautiful movies, they were using some old techniques like Technicolor, different 4 strips, 3 strips, but we are shooting this movie now, so I don't believe in just full reproduction of such a complex technique, but I can be still inspired by something like that, like by color separation, or just by rendition of certain colors and the way it was already lit, shot, and all those beautiful costumes coming all together. It gives you some codes that you're trying to just decipher in a way. So yeah, it was really interesting
project.
Interesting, yeah, project. Yeah, yes.
The image is superb. And just to wrap it up, actually, we will have time for a little bit of Q&A, I think. But I'd like to finish on your collaboration because, I mean, having been working on 3 feature films, I guess your communication has evolved. You understand each other's aesthetic. Would you say, I mean, I guess it's quite beneficial for the movie. I know that not all DOPs always necessarily work with the same colorist. So I'd like to hear what you think about your collaboration in general, your partnership.
Well, I think you can judge our collaboration by the films we've been doing. There are only 3 now, but there will be more, I hope. It's very important, I mean, for anyone to speak with a person who understands and who listens to you and make things that might be interesting for you. So I don't think we're inventing any bicycle here, but it's just a chemistry, images, and like human being. And of course it's professional skills, because Veronica is exceptional colorist, obviously.
I guess you win time by knowing each other better.
Yeah, of course, but also maybe there is something about sharing some references, and when you feel inspired, and it kind of helps you, it pushes you forward. And Mikhail always provides such an inspiring images when he thinks or prepares a movie. So yeah, it's a pleasure to work with, always. But what I'm trying to say is that I was thinking during that different projects, like that first there was this idea, like, can you, Veronica, support technically this idea of trying to manage, or not supervise, but mostly manage and keep the existing look and evolve it in a way for final grading. And it got me thinking recently that probably that's my subjective opinion, like, but it's more like a question whether color comes later, or it still could be following the cinematography, or following the moment when cinematographer is shooting it, or giving some, not precise, but some idea of could it be this kind of a question that I'm asking myself when I'm following it, because that's a lot of also on my side. I'm just adapting to to the light and the different days, shooting days. It doesn't mean that I change look much. It just means that I'm just looking where it goes, because when you start the movie, you can have a lot of ideas in your head how it could be, even me with my prepared lots. But from this experience of 3 features, and I was also not following on set few projects, but just creating some kind of existing looks for them, not existing, but looks in prep. And what I noticed that maybe in the first days you still have to adjust, because depending on how all the elements that you have in your head and in beautiful mood boards, when they come together, it could create something new as well. And it's nice to adapt to that. And I like that more and more technical tools that they're evolving, so you can also more easily follow this. I guess it's absolutely possible now that to follow up.
Okay, thank you. We maybe have time for one question. Just thank you both for sharing your experience. You make a great duo. And if anyone has a question, we might have the time.
I was curious about your research into sort of the texture of films with like grain and halation, and what your process was for figuring out what you liked and what you eventually ended up with especially this film.
Is this a question for me, right? For
yeah,
Mikhail as well?
I think both, yeah.
Okay, I'll share my technical bit. I guess when you work with digital image, you might want to manipulate with MTF of the image that you get. So there are many ways. For example, if you use baselight, I use sometimes texture equalizer tool, so I can change the appearance of how the sharpness on different frequencies, how they would look. And by frequencies, it could be, I could simplify it to like blacks and grays and highlights. And on this particular movie, on Vermiglio, we were softening mostly, because the aim was to achieve the most nostalgic look. Also, I guess, also coming back to my last explanation of the whole process, that it all comes together. So I'm doing my little bit in this as a post-processing of the image, but also as any cinematographer could use some textures. Sometimes in airy camera you have to choose which texture to use. But also, the choice of lens that was made played a big part.
Yeah, it was Super Bolters lens we ended up with. We tried Cook anamorphics,
Hugo?
Leitz, Hugo, and yeah, Super Bolters won, and Maura loved it. So yeah, in the very first moment.
Yeah. So this process is come together if I explain the process, but also we applied grain, of course, on top of that, and also we were trying to add more of chromatic aberration inside of baselight, because we already had quite a lot of chromatic aberration from those lenses, and also they were all different color-wise.
Just to make it, yeah, even. Mm.
Yeah, so all together got us to this kind of texture.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I think this is very stressing.
Oh, that's scary. That's blinking red.
So there's no more time, but I'm sure you can just come at the end. I mean, now and ask them the question out of the table. Thank Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.